Pytest Framework 4. In this, we will discuss about parameterization, very important feature of Pytest Framework. Similarly, pass arguments from command line using parser in Pytest, as well as we will also see hooks, which are used for adding additional environment info in the test reports. Before going to this, let you understand what is parameterization. Parameters are nothing but arguments. In general, whenever we are discussing functions in Python, we pass arguments to functions. If it is a method which is a function defined in a class, we'll also pass arguments to methods. Along with arguments, we specify the data which that particular arguments will take directly with the help of Pytest markers, and we'll specify pytest.mark.parameterize, and in that we'll pass arguments. Along with arguments, we will also pass the data which those arguments require. So why it is required? If you want to run the test method multiple times with a different set of data without using loops, we'll go for one of the feature of Pytest, that is parameterization. Instead of parameterization, what you can do, you can just simply go for data driven testing. See, if the data is very large or very huge, if your test methods require rigorous amount of test data, then what you do, which you have already seen, you specify the test data in Excel files or in the database. At the runtime, you will fetch the test data and you will pass that same test data to the test method. If the data is very huge, but if the data is limited, and if you want to execute the test method multiple times with multiple sets of data, we will go for parameterization. It eliminates writing looping statements. So in this way, you can use parameterization. It is one of the important feature in Pytest framework. So to use or to pass parameters to any test method, what you can do, you can just use this @pytest.mark. When I say mark, it is also a marker. So in that you can use parameterize. When I say parameterize, you are taking these arguments for these parameters, num1 and num2 for these arguments. You are just passing multiple sets of data. This is one set, this is another set, another set, another set. So you will execute the test method with these parameters with multiple sets of data multiple times. Go to PyCharm so that you can understand what I am trying to say. I'm creating a new Python package, date38-pytest4. This is the fourth class. So in this, I am creating a Python file, test_parameterization. So I'm just creating this particular module. Inside this module, I'm just creating a method. So since I'm using a feature of Pytest, definitely I need to import Pytest. And after importing, I'm just defining a class. So that name is test class. And inside the class, I'm just defining a test method, test_calculation. So for this calculation, I'm just passing parameters num1, num2. So it is just a calculation. I'm just asserting whether num1 is equal to num2 or not. I'm just checking whether the num1 which this particular test calculation method takes and the num2 which also this particular test calculation method takes are equal or not. So I'm just asserting, validating, assert num1 is equal to num2. So in general, what you can do, you can create an object for a class, and that with the help of that object, you can call the method. At the time of calling, you will specify the values for these parameters. This is what we have seen whenever you are discussing class and object. But I want to use the feature of the Pytest, parameterization, how I can use that. So if you can see, as we have already seen, to use the parameterization feature of Pytest, I need to use @pytest.mark.parameters. So if I define this particular marker before any method, it will consider that this particular method is having 2 arguments. Yes, I have specified those arguments, and for these arguments, I need to specify multiple sets of data. So this particular test method is executed multiple times with multiple sets of data. So if you can execute it from here, you can see assertion error, 2 failed, 2 passed. So this is one set of data, another set of data, third set of data, fourth set of data. In this, if you see, I'm just asserting num1 is equal to num2 or not. Yes, in the first and third set test data, num1 is equal to num2. So that is the reason 2 passed. If you can see here, it is passed 1 equal to 1, it is failed, 3 is not equal to 5. Similarly, if you can see 10 is equal to 10, it is passed, 5 is not equal to 20, it is failed. So in this way, with multiple sets of data, you can execute the same test method multiple times by using parameterization concept. Simply you can say enables the test method. Parameterization means enables the test method to run multiple times. Just now we have seen with different sets of data without need for looping. You can use parameterization feature. So the same parameterization class we can execute by using terminal. How you can execute? I'm just using this particular execution string pytest -s-v in the day38 pytest 4 in the test parameterization.py. It is the Python module. In that, I'm just executing. If you can see, 2 failed, 2 passed. This is what we have seen earlier. If those are not equal, you get assertion error. In this way, you can parameterize. But let us try to see one real-time example, real case example, how you can pass username and password for some random website using parameterization concept. Close this. Let me create another Python module, test underscore parameterization 2. So in this, what I will do, I will just import Pytest. So from Selenium, so to the particular website, I need to log in with different username and password. So if you can see, I'm just importing WebDriver as well as by for finding the element and also for sending the test data, which we'll specify through parameterization. So let me create a class. Class I'm just defining as test class. So in this, what I will do, I will just to define a method, test method. So in this, I am just defining try and accept blocks as well, so that if there is any exception, try and accept blocks will take care. In this particular example, what I am doing, I'm just trying to log in into this particular web application by opening this particular URL. Thereafter, I'm just finding the username text box and password text box and button. So passing the username, passing the password. So this is what I'm just doing. Thereafter, when I log into that particular application, I need to check whether it is landed into the home page or not. If it is landed into the home page, definitely dashboard is to be displayed. If you can see here, I'm just going to Orange HRM or open source Orange HRM. So I'm just going to this particular website. I'm just entering username and password admin123. So if you see, once I enter username and password, this particular dashboard is presented in the home page. I'm just checking whether this particular dashboard is presented or not. If this particular dashboard is present, then in that case, I can assume that yes, after entering username and password, it has landed onto this particular home page. So what I am doing, so not only for different single username and password, I want to execute it per multiple username and password. If you see here, this is only for one username and one password, one set of data. So instead of this, what I can do, I can just pass user here just because I need to use the user parameter. Similarly, instead of this password, what I can do, I can just pass pwd, means password. For username and password, with the help of parameterization, how I can pass multiple set of username and password. If you can see here, with the help of Pytest dot mark dot parameterize, I'm just specifying the username and the password in the parameterization, username and the password. And for this username, this is and password, this is one set of data separated by comma with another set of data. This is admin123 ADM. This is wrong username and right password. Right username and wrong password. Wrong username, wrong password. This is multiple sets of data, as like we have seen in the test calculation. In the similar way, what you are doing, you are just passing multiple sets of data to this particular test method. You are executing this particular test method multiple times with this parameterization concept. If you can see here, I'm just executing this. If you can see, this is one set of data. Yes, it is passed. This is another set of data. Invalid credentials. Because we have entered wrong username and password. Similarly, this is right username and wrong password, invalid credentials. Also, this is the last set, entering wrong username and wrong password. So if you can see here, total 3 tests are failed. Passed only one test. That's what it is saying. 3 failed, 1 passed. Because admin and admin123 are the right username and the password for this web application. So instead of that, you are just again testing that username and password with multiple sets of data. Like this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the same method is executed 4 times with 4 sets of data. In this way, you can parameterize. You can pass values to the arguments, username and password, using parameterization in Pytest. You can see the same here. Also, if you want to execute this by using terminal, what you can do, you can just specify test parameterization 2. If you just specify like this, what it will do, it will try to collect 4 items. Similarly, which we executed from the IDE, it will also check the validations, nothing but assertions, which we have specified in this particular test method. This is with another set of data. This is with third set. Yes, we have entered wrong invalid credentials. This is fourth time with fourth set of data. Just you are executing the same test method by using parameterization feature from the terminal. In this way, you can parameterize a test method. It is one of the feature, but In general, if the data is very huge, we'll not use this parameterization. We'll go for data-driven testing using Excel, or instead of Excel, you will specify the test data in the database. So 3 failed, 1 passed. In this way, you can use parameterization feature in Pytest. So if you see in this test method, test login is a test method inside this particular test class. You are just using self.driver. So if there are any class variables, you can access those class variables by using self. Whenever we are discussing OOPS concepts, you will get to know that to access class variables inside the test methods, we use self keyword. Also, to declare any variable as a class variable inside the test method, you can use self. To access the class variables, to declare any variable as a class variable, you can use self keyword. So if there are any multiple methods, likewise, if you can see here, I'm just having another method. Like this is not the same script, just for your understanding. This is one method, this is another method which you are having in the same class. So whatever the class variable which you defined or declared, you need to use in another test method. What you can do, you can just to define that variable as a class variable. So if it is a class variable, it will be available for all the test methods in that particular class. So inside the test method also, you can declare the variable as a class variable, and you can use that class variable in multiple methods. So we should not confuse why we have defined self here. This is about parameterization. Another important topic, how you can pass command line options to test or test method. If you can see, this is a test method. Suppose if my requirement is I want to execute this particular test method not in Chrome but in Edge, also in Firefox, with the help of the option which you can pass from the command line, how you can take those particular option and how you can pass those options to test method. This is what we will see right now. Very important. So to pass options from the command line, we have two methods, parser.adoption and Pytest adoption. So what is parser.adoption? Is a method provided by the Pytest library to customize command line options for your test. To pass any command line options, if you want to pass any option from the command line which you have to do from the terminal to your test, we can use parser.adoption. It is a Pytest library. It allows us to define additional command line options. If required, I can define more. If not required, I can also confine to one. So whenever running Pytest commands. So once you customize the command line options, then we use request.config to take that particular option and to pass that particular option to a test method. How you can do, we'll see in a while. Also, if you can see, this is a Pytest method, Pytest_adoption, and parser.adoption reads this particular option from the command line. Once it has read from the command line, this request.config will get that particular option and it will pass the same option to the test method. This is we'll see in a while. Also, there is some more requirements, like we need to generate the report. After generating the report, we need to modify some of the environmental info in the reports that we will see. But note, Very important. We'll see hooks in a while, but the very important point is hooks and adoption. This is what we have seen, Pytest adoption, as well as this request config are written in fixtures. Hooks and adoption methods are written in fixtures. So fixtures, when I say, we'll specify setup and tear down methods. Where we'll write those fixtures? We'll write those fixtures in conftest file, conftest.py file. So I will let you know right now how you can write. So I'm going to PyCharm. So I'm just creating a conftest file, new Python file, conftest.py. So in this, what I'm doing, I'm just using those particular adoption, parser.adoption and browser option. So if you can see here, when I say @pytest.fixture, this particular method which I defined will be executed at the very beginning whenever executing any test method. So if you see, for this particular fixture method, I'm just passing browser as a variable. So if browser equal to Chrome, I am returning that driver variable. Elif, if not Chrome, if it is Edge, I'm just returning Edge driver. So with the help of driver only, I will open the URL, I will maximize and perform all the actions on that particular web application. If it is not Edge, if it is Firefox, then I can use Firefox driver as a returned variable inside this particular fixture method. This is fixture method. So fixture methods are defined in conftest file. Always fixtures are defined in conftest file. If you can see, for this particular fixture method, what I am doing, I am just passing browser as a variable. From where I can get the browser variable? So I can just get the browser variable from the command line. How I can get? I have parser.adoption. So when I use parser.adoption, this is a method in Pytest. It will get the value from the command line interface. Like terminal is nothing but command line interface. It's like a command prompt. So once you get the option from the command line, you pass the same option, nothing but the browser. Here is the browser option which you are getting from the command line. You are just passing the browser option to this particular fixture method. So two things you need to do. You need to get the option from the command line. You should pass the same option to the test method or the fixture method which you are using. So for returning the browser value to the setup method, this is nothing but a fixture method, setup method. You can use request.config. So what I am doing, I am just using the same test parameterization to inside this. What I'm doing, I'm just, instead of this particular parameterization, what I am doing, I'm just calling this particular setup fixture method inside this particular login method. So instead of this user, since I am not using any parameterization, I can use admin. Similarly, instead of password, I can just use admin 123. So I am not using any test data, just I am only using one set of test data, not parameterization. So just commenting this particular parameterization. So if you can see, I'm also removing this. So if you want to use fixture method in any test method, definitely you need to call that particular fixture method. So where you define this particular fixture method, conftest file. So wherever you define the conftest file, for all the test methods which you define in that particular directory or package, it will be automatically available. I have defined conftesting day 38. It is not available to 37 and 36. Likewise, 1 to 35 as well. Wherever you define conftest file, whatever the fixtures methods you define in this particular conftest file, will be automatically available to the test method which you defined in the module of the same package or directory. So I'm just calling this particular setup method. Also, this already you defined experimental option, WebDriver or Chrome options. So I don't want to use this again here. So what this setup method will do, whenever executing this particular test method, always fixtures will be executed at first. Before when I execute this particular test login, setup method will be executed first because it is a fixture which will execute before every test method. So it will execute appropriately regarding the browser. It will return the driver variable. So I need to initialize a driver variable as a class variable. Self.driver is equal to setup, because this particular setup, which is a fixture method, will return the driver variable. So what I'm doing, I'm just using that. After returning, I'm just opening this particular URL, implementing wait, finding element and passing username and password. Thereafter, I'm just using assertions. This is what I'm doing. So I want to execute this particular test method in the Chrome browser. I can pass this particular -- browser is equal to Chrome from the terminal, which you will see in a while. Similarly, if I want to execute it in Edge, -- browser equal to Edge, -- browser equal to Firefox. This is what we can do. If you can see here, I'm just executing test parameterization to, I'm just specifying -- browser equal to Chrome. So when I pass the Chrome browser, you can see the Chrome browser is opening here. This is Chrome. But I don't want to execute that in Chrome. Instead of Chrome, I want to execute it in Edge. You can see it here. Edge browser is opening. You can see it here. Microsoft Edge is being controlled. Similarly, I don't want to execute that in Edge. I want to execute that in Firefox. If you can see, Firefox takes a little bit time. It is somewhat slow to execute. If you can see here, it is Firefox browser. Yes. So you are just passing the browser from the command line. Nothing but this is, see, in this case, this is the option, nothing but the browser. In your case, if the requirement is different, you can pass the same from the browser, command line or the terminal. Instead of browser, you can just specify another thing. So this is as per your requirement. So my requirement is I want to execute this particular test method in multiple browsers based on my requirement. If I want to execute it in Edge or Firefox or Chrome, I can do that. So just by passing the option from the command line, and you can pass the same option to the fixture method, and you will check whether it is equal to Chrome, Edge or Firefox. Appropriately, it will return the driver, and with the help of that driver, you can execute the test methods. Also, yes, every time when we execute, we will see the results in the terminal. But I don't want to see it in the terminal. Instead of this, I want to see it in the report. So for generating reports, we need to import or install HTML package. If you can see, for generating HTML reports after every test execution, you need to install Pytest-HTML. So when I install this, after the completion of execution of any test method, it will generate a report. We will see right now how it will generate. So I'm going to File, Settings. I'm going to Interpreter. I'm just using Pytest-HTML. If you can see, this is the plugin for generating HTML reports. I'm just installing that. It is already installed and clicking on OK. So once you execute any test method, it will try to automatically generate the report. If you can see, for generating the report, you need to specify -HTML is equal to, you need to specify the folder where you need to generate the report with report.html name. So in the data date Pytest 4 only, I want to generate the report with the name report.html. So this is the same string which I want to execute it in multiple browsers like in Chrome or Edge or Firefox. I'm just executing this. If you can see here, recognized -- browser. So you need to specify equal to Chrome. So this is not the module which we are using. So if you can see here, I need to modify that. Test underscore parameterization 2. It will execute right now. Yes, if you can see here, it is trying to open that particular URL, enter username and password. Yes. After the execution, you can see the method is passed. Yes. And it has generated the HTML report in this particular folder, practice, Python practice date@8, which we have said that, yes, you just generate the report in this particular folder or the package. So that is the reason in this particular package, it has just generated report.html. So how you can view the report? Right click on this particular report.html, open in browser in Chrome. If you can see here in the Chrome browser, it has generated the report. Yes, it has passed. So once it is passed, you will see how much duration it has executed. Also, this is the environmental info, in which environment it has executed. Yes, it is having the Python, this version, and Windows platform. What are the packages you have installed? Pytest and plugin, and what are all the other plugins? HTML, metadata, ordering, XDS, IST. These are all the plugins which you installed after Pytest. So these are the environment info. After generating the report, you can see like this. You can see whether the test method is passed or failed. So let us try to generate one more report. After, instead of true, what I'm doing, I'm just saying it is false, just for your understanding how a report looks like when it is false. So I'm just executing the same. If you can see here, I need to pass it very carefully. So it has opened that particular URL, executed. Yes, it is failed because I have set that status is equal to false. Yes, status is always true because it is logging into that particular application. If it is logging, it is displayed. That particular dashboard element is displayed. If it is displaying, is displayed should return true. But I am saying false. So that is the reason assertion or validation is false. So it has failed. So accordingly, if you see the report in this here report.html, right click, open in browser, and Chrome or Firefox Edge you can see. So after opening that, you can see the report. So this is the report. So this particular test method which you have executed is failed. Why it has failed? I have said that, from here the error arised. Assert is equal to true is equal to false. It is not true. It is false. So that is the reason it has failed. Where it has failed, you can see all the steps which it has performed in the same as like in the command line. You can see all the things like this. That what you are seeing here. The same has been captured here. And you can see along with the environment info. So this is how you can generate the report. Pytest-HTML. This is the package which you need to install. And other requirement is, this is the environmental info. I want to modify this environmental info. Like modify means I can add some more information, or I can modify existing information. So these are all nothing but environmental info. Suppose it is my requirement. So to edit environmental info, what I can do, I can just use hooks. Very important interview question, which we have already discussed. Hooks and adoption are written in fixtures. Then what is a hook? If you can see, this is environmental info. I can call this environmental info as a metadata, means data about this particular report, in which environment it has executed. So I can call this environmental info as a metadata. So if I want to add environmental info to the HTML report, if I want to modify any environmental info, nothing but deleting also to the HTML report which we have generated right now, we use hooks. Hooks are the functions provided by the Pytest framework. Functions used to add or delete or modify environmental info in the HTML report. So this is a default method provided by the Pytest, but this is metadata which I have defined. Whatever the metadata you will get here, nothing but in the environmental info, this is the metadata. You need to remove that metadata. You need to add that. So what you can do, you can just use these particular hooks to modify. If you observe here, observation is very important. This is the environmental info. So I want to modify this environmental info. What I can do, so I can just specify those modified values here like this. And the config, you can have stash metadata key. You are just adding that project name, module name, tester name, which those are not there here. If you can see, I want to add. So to add, what I can do, I can use hooks. To modify also, I can use hooks functions. So all these hooks are specified in the conf test file. So you can go to PyCharm. In the conf test, you can define these hooks. So you can just use Pytest configure. This is a hook. This is also a hook. This is a default hook from the Pytest. This is the existing data I'm just modifying. So I'm just defining this as a hook, optional hook. So if you see here in this particular report, I don't want plugins. In the plugins and in the Python also, I'm having some version number. So if required, you can keep this. If required, you can keep this. If you don't want, you can just remove. How you can remove? You can just use pop. So when you use pop, it will remove that particular environment info. If you can see, I'm also adding some information, project name, module name, and the tester name. This is my name. So if you can execute the same parameterization module true, I'm just specifying true here. It will execute and you will see the environmental info modified accordingly. Yes, it is opening the URL and you entered the username and password, and thereafter it is generated the report in this particular location only. Yes, I'm just opening it. Browser, Chrome. Yes, you can see here. This is the environmental info. I can say metadata. In the metadata, I have added project name. I have added. This is what you can see in the conf test. Module name I have added. Tester name I have added. You can see it here. Module name, tester name. Also, this is the same report which it got already refreshed. What I have also done, I have just removed the Python and the plugin. So instead of this, what you can do, you can just comment this just for a while and you can execute this one more time so that you can understand. Yes, it has opened this particular URL. Max entered the username and password. Also, if you can see, Python and plugins I have not removed, so it also presented in the environmental info. So if you want to remove this, if you don't want, then you can just use in this particular metadata, which is a dictionary, you can just remove those Python and plugins. Python and plugins. In this way, you can add hooks to the conf test. Also, you can use Pytest adoption methods. Also, you can use Pytest parameterization.